Welcome back to Movies TV Mad. Of course, you can follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad, and welcome to Tuesday's edition of the dceu Daily. So, restore the Snyderverse trends again. I don't have the figures for you, but they're huge because everyone involved in the movement, you, me, everyone, was hashtagging restore the Snyderverse. I love these events. I love the gifs. I love the banter. It's all great. We got lots of verified blue tick accounts, including Kevin Smith, kind of hashtagging and talking about it. I'll read you Kevin Smith's tweet a little bit later on. Because we were getting an event, I spoke to one of my sources, and they spoke to me about how Discovery see restore the Snyderverse, and this is what I was told. I was told that Discovery and David Zaslav are shocked and stunned and disgusted that Zack Snyder is no longer working with Warner Brothers Pictures. They are stunned, shocked and disgusted that the Snyderverse is not going ahead over at Warner Brothers Pictures, and that David Zaslav has spoken to Zack Snyder about this very situation, making him certain assurances. So, look, something is brewing. You know, Zack's been posting some things. I think the one that really piqued my interest, and that was a week or so ago when he posted Wonder Woman with the Native Americans and the severed heads, which was his original take for the first Wonder Woman film. Or was it going to be the sequel? I have no idea. But that's what piqued my interest, because it was the anniversary of the release of Justice League. And it was a weird thing to post. Because if he just posted a random Justice League thing, I'd be like, okay. And I know he had the Justice League clapperboard there, but why the picture of Wonder Woman and the severed heads? That piqued all of our interest and made us believe maybe, or got us thinking and theorising many kind of conspiracy theories, as us lot normally do. And maybe he's involved in Wonder Woman 3. Grace Randolph mentioned this earlier this year, that there are some suits at Warner Brothers who wanted him and still want him to be involved in Wonder Woman 3. Now, at this moment in time, according to Patty Jenkins and Gal Gadot, Patty Jenkins is directing Wonder Woman 3. She could still direct Wonder Woman 3 and involve Zack too. This may be a thing as well. I just don't think Zack Snyder's going to want to go for what she wants to go for with Linda Carter, etc., etc. But we've already heard that there's a good chance that Jason Momoa's Aquaman is going to be in Wonder Woman 3. And it doesn't stop there, because there's been rumours about Henry Cavill's and Ben Affleck's Superman and Batman. So I think this could be a big celebration of the Snyderverse as well. So we now know that Zaslav and Discovery are disgusted over the treatment of Zack Snyder by Warner Brothers Pictures. So I think with Zaslav and Discovery coming in, there can be every expectation that the Snyderverse can be restored. Now, it is not my agenda to cancel the plans that are already happening, but you can understand, you can understand why Ann Sarnoff and company have rushed out a huge slate for 2022 and beyond. They want to get their slate out there. They want to make money to show Zaslav and Discovery that their plan is working and there's no need to restore the Snyderverse. But when you're dealing with a multiverse strategy, why are you excluding the Snyderverse? It doesn't make sense. We've discussed this before. Of course we have. That you can have Zack in a parallel universe with his Snyderverse. Justice League 2, Justice League 3, the Batfleck movie, a Man of Steel sequel doesn't have to be in the central universe. It can all be moved. And if you've got a parallel universe, you can still have kind of Cavill and Gadot involved in Earth 1, but they can be involved in other versions in a parallel universe. I said this the other day. You could just say that the Snyderverse was always a parallel universe. Do you get it? It kind of makes sense. Maybe this is something they're looking to do. I don't know. You don't know until we see the Flash movie and what the actual plan is. Is it a cohesive plan? Is it a good plan? Or is it a bad plan? We've seen what they're doing with the Marvel Cinematic Universe and Spider-Man No Way Home, which is their Flashpoint movie. And everything is involved. You know, Feige has left no stone unturned. And we've got this brilliant immersive director with this brilliant immersive version of the DC Extended Universe, and it's just been thrown away. We know the Snyder Cut made loads of money, but they threw it away. They hid the figures. I've never seen anything so toxic in all my life. And neither has David Zaslav and Discovery. I can tell you they are very angry. And we already know from David Zaslav's very mouth that he has been talking to creatives in Hollywood, California. And one of those creatives is almost certainly, definitely, if you believe my source, Zack Snyder as well. So big things are happening. I am as shocked as any of you that this hype is back for Restore the Snyderverse. Zack wasn't posting for a very long time. I thought, obviously mistakenly, he was moving on with Army of the Dead franchise and the Rebel Moon franchise. And all of a sudden he started posting this stuff, which means he's not done with us, he's not done with the Snyderverse, and he still wants to continue it. Great news, because he did go quiet. I just assumed he was busy. But I think it's going to be an interesting time from now until Rebel Moon goes into production. This is a window of opportunity because Zack's going to have a bit of time before April to stir the pot. And this is what he's done now. The very reason we had an event last night is because of what he's been posting. Zack's very good at manipulating these events and these situations. He's been doing it ever since Justice League released. We won one round. The war to release the Snyder Cut was a battle we won, but it was only Act 1 of a huger war and a huger battle against a studio, because they have hid the Snyder Cut numbers. And the Discovery Zaslav buyout is a window, another window of opportunity for Restore the Snyderverse and Zack Snyder. It means that these people are no longer going to be in control. We have to be clear here that AT&T are still going to be majority shareholders, but it's whatever Zaslav and Discovery says goes. Now, I don't really understand this structure where you can be a majority shareholder, but you're not going to have any real say in what's going on in Warner Brothers Discovery. Now, that's because although AT&T will be majority shareholders, they don't want to work in the entertainment side. They want to stick to their cable and wireless side. And that's what they're going to focus on. So in a way, David Zaslav and Discovery have got a little share, but they're like fixers. Zaslav is a fixer. So AT&T have basically brought him in not only to fix the damage that they've done, and I think AT&T did a lot of good things. I think restoring or releasing the Snyder Cut was a great thing and a brave thing and a bold thing they did, by the way. And then it looked like they were going to restore the Snyderverse completely, and then they kind of handed over power and control to Toby Emmerich and Ann Sarnoff. And that was very curious to me. That's when I smelt a rat. And the rat I smelt was the takeover from Zaslav and Discovery. So you can see the Zaslav and Discovery takeover as bringing a fixer in to fix in not just their mistakes, but mistakes, calamities and catastrophes from previous regimes going back and beyond Kevin Tsujihara. Because any president of a studio who nods his head and says, yeah, that's fine, release Justice League, has got something wrong with them. I'm sorry, something wrong with them. And if you think he wasn't removed because of what happened directly with Justice League, you haven't been paying attention. So many things have been revealed now, and we are on the right side of this. And I'm so excited, and I'm sure you are. All of a sudden, the buzz of restoring the Snyderverse is back again. This is huge. Something is happening. And even if it's just Zack working on Wonder Woman 3, that's Act 1. Zack has never left the Snyderverse. Zack has never left the DCEU. His name's on every fucking film, right? Because he created, he conceived the DC Extended Universe. His special effects people are working on The Flash. Andy Muschietti, a great supporter. Andy Muschietti went to Warner Brothers Pictures and told them that Justice League would not be canon. He spoke for the rest of the directors. They pushed him forward and he said to Walter Hamada, we will not work on any projects where Justice League is canon. Because it's interesting, just before the Snyder Cut was released, Zack Snyder said that Justice League, as far as Warner Brothers Pictures were concerned, was canon. Absolute insanity. How is that going to work? Do we have to see Henry Cavill with a weird upper lip in the Warner Brothers Pictures verse? Not going to happen. So thanks to these wonderful directors that Walter Hamada brought in. And you know what? I know a lot of you dislike Walter Hamada, and Ray Fisher has kind of made sure of that. And you know, I love Ray Fisher as Cyborg, I really do, but some of the things he was doing and saying never sat well with me, and it's a shame because I think he was very bold and brave, you know, forcing an investigation. Ultimately, when you're fighting these big entities, you will only get mini victories, and ultimately he got the investigation, but very few people were punished, the people that he wanted punished, like Toby Emmerich, Jeff Johns. They're still there. Jeff Johns is a very, very difficult man to destroy and get rid of. He's now over at the CW making Stargirl. I think that's still a victory, by the way, because he's nowhere near the DC Extended Universe, although hold my beer, because we don't know if he's back to co-write Wonder Woman 3 with Patty Jenkins, as he did with Wonder Woman 84. Again, say what you want about Jeff Johns, but he knows DC so well, and is a great writer. He wrote loads of great episodes of Smallville, he really did. But his work, and Patty's work on Wonder Woman 84, is absolutely puzzling. I am stunned. I don't even know how much work he did on it. I think I've said this before as well. I think we can take as read now that it was Jeff Johns who recruited Patty Jenkins for the first Wonder Woman film, and not Zack Snyder, and Zack Snyder's pick was other directors. Don't forget, there was another director tapped with creative differences, tapped for her dismissal. But what if she was Zack's proxy for Wonder Woman 1, but then Jeff Johns decided to sack her and bring in Patty Jenkins? A bit of a conspiracy theory for you there, but it's all starting to make sense. Officially, it was Zack Snyder who brought in Patty, but I am not so sure about that, everyone. So, listen, we're in the cusp of a wave again. It's amazing. Thank you, Zack Snyder. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for teasing these things. You know what you're doing. It's not just a joke. It's not a lark. I know you don't troll your fans, and journalists saying that are talking absolute shit. Something is happening. When you get Kevin Smith start tweeting about, restore the Snyderverse, and if you do this, Zack, make sure you do this and that. That's sensational. As I say, we'll get to that tweet very shortly. I'm not one of Kevin Smith's biggest fans right now after what happened to Masters of the Universe. At the end of the day, I think it was despicable what he did, but he's a huge figure in Hollywood, and if he's tweeting about Zack, I'll thank him for that. Obviously, one of his agendas may be to get back into the fanboys' good graces again, because I do think that it's not totally Kevin's fault, Masters of the Universe. I think he was put in a horrible position from Netflix and he had to go with it. And it's a shame. So I wouldn't personally attack him if I was anyone. And I thank him again, because he was one of the first in his Fat Man on Batman podcast talking about the Snyderverse. He actually had a few people in his audience in that video who had seen the original test screening for the Snyder Cut, or the original version of the Snyder Cut as it was going to be. So he was really one banging the door. So I always thank him for that, and grateful. He is a genuine fanboy. I do believe that. I do believe that. So we'll read what he says a little bit later on. So what we can take from the first piece of today's DCEU Daily is that Warner Brothers Discovery and Zaslav are very angry and frustrated at Warner Brothers Pictures for forcing Zack out. They are shocked and they are stunned by the treatment of Zack Snyder. They think the Snyderverse is an immersive experience and they want it back. They want Zack restored. They want to restore the Snyderverse. Make no mistake about that. Whenever there's a Restore the Snyderverse event, or whenever there was a Release the Snyder Cut event, you can guarantee and bet on one thing, that Brad Curran of Screen Rant, a great little journalist, don't always agree with all his takes, but great little journalist, will do a little Snyderverse little article, and he's done one again, and this was done on November the 17th, 2021. The real reasons fans won't let go of restoring the Snyderverse. Many fans to continue to push for Zack Snyder's Justice League sequels, and some factors are being overlooked in why interest remains so strong by Brad Curran of Screen Rant. I mean, I don't think it's rocket science. He's a great man, Zack Snyder, but I'm not supporting him solely because he's a great man. It helps, and everything that's happened to him and his wife and what happened to their daughter is part of the journey we're on, of course. And I'm sure you've donated to the suicide prevention charity, and I have multiple times as well. But it's about the films. The films are an immersive experience, and I loved them. And that's the kind of storytelling I want to see. Now, I want Ann Sarnoff's and Walter Hamada's plans to continue. I don't want to destabilize those plans. I don't want Zack to be running the whole thing, because I want all DC fans to be pleased. But I think there's nothing wrong with restoring the Snyderverse and calling it a parallel universe, and saying that it was always a parallel universe, and continuing beyond Justice League 3, beyond the Batfleck movie, beyond the Man of Steel sequel as well. This guy is this era's George Lucas. He's as close as we're going to get. He's brilliant and he's immersive. You don't have to like him or his films, because you know, the DCEU is going to have a central universe, all for you, bright colours, smiley if that's what you want, but let us have this too. That's all I'm saying. The push for the sequels to Zack Snyder's Justice League continues, and while some reasons for that are clear, there's one in the mix that has gotten much less attention than it should. November the 17th is now a red letter date for DC fans, once infamous as the 2017 release date for the theatrical cut of Justice League, despite assertions by Warner Brothers that the film was still Snyder's after his earlier departure. The reshoot heavy pastiche led to swift calls for the release of the Snyder Cut. By the way, let me be absolutely clear about this. Telling the public that Justice League, that pile of shit, was Zack Snyder's film is one of the most disgusting things I've ever seen in the entertainment industry. And I work in the theatre. You know, I spent 6 months in Hollywood, and I've seen a lot of twisted, dark shit. And this is the most twisted. It's like me, I think I've done this analogy before, I'll do it again. It's like me making the perfect cup of tea and Joss Whedon urinating in it and saying, why don't you taste this, it's better now. You know, it clearly isn't. On November the 17th, 2019, that push finally culminated in a massive social media trending event, with many celebrities and cast members like Ben Affleck and Gal Gadot also entering the fray. The Snyder Cut was officially announced the following May. Since the film's controversial debut in 2021, calls have been equally loud and determined for Snyder's intended pair of Justice League sequels, even in the face of Warner Brothers declaring the Snyder Cut is a storytelling cul-de-sac that will proceed no further. Again, this is interesting, the cul-de-sac thing that Walter Hamada said. Ann Sarnoff saying in the Variety hit piece, it was a trilogy, we're happy he did it, now we're going to move on. These things are not going to age well. As I've said before, the window of opportunity of Zaslav and Discovery coming in changes everything. It's like AT&T being desperate for a huge piece of content to launch HBO Max. Zack had a window of opportunity there, he took it, and he's going to take this as well. If you don't think he made the first move with Zaslav, if you don't think he's been pushing, he was pushing, even when they threw him out and we was fighting for the Snyder Cut, he was going to Warner Brothers Pictures saying, look, they want it, there's money in this. And they said it was just, you know, a small majority, a small minority. They were wrong, of course. While the reasons for the continued push for Snyder's two unmade Justice League sequels are as obvious as fans simply wanting to see the story that he started reach its conclusion, there's something else feeding into the drive that's less prominent, but just as key to understanding. understanding it. To put it simply, Snyder began a Justice League story that's currently resting at part 3 of 5. The Justice League of all teams being left to simply sit idle, at least as a collective group, is an unspoken but crucial factor in the calls for Snyder to be allowed to finish what he started, especially with a fairly vivid picture of what parts 4 and 5 of Snyder's Justice League story were to involve. You see, Snyder's clever as well, because he's literally told us what he's doing in those movies. It just amps up the hype. It's smart. While the mythical nature of the Snyder Cut prior to its release is now a superhero movie legend, it's also the summit of the path towards a Justice League movie being made at all, which took much longer than many realised. The Justice League making the leap to movies actually began in 2007 with George Miller's Justice League Mortal. Delays with the Writers Guild America strike in 2007 and other complications ultimately led to Justice League Mortal never being realised. It's actually the same as Bryan Singer's Superman Returns sequel. I don't even think it had a... Yes, that's what it was going to be called, Superman Man of Steel, the sequel of Superman Returns. Never happened because the writer's strike happened and then they fought again and they went the Snyder and Nolan route. While Warner Brothers refocused their attention on Christopher Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy, the failure of 2011's Green Lantern also led to Man of Steel instead of becoming the foundation for the DCEU. Warner Brothers later announced a complete slate of upcoming DC movies at the 2015 San Diego Comic-Con to kick off with 2016's Batman v Superman Dawn of Justice. Unfortunately, Batman v Superman was subject to an even more intensely divisive reception, which led to WB second-guessing the entire DCEU plan. This gave way to the chaos of WB's management of DC movies for the next several years, including the infamous Justice League reshoots in Snyder's absence. After he'd completed principal photography, though Justice League crashed and burned in theatres, the DC superhero ensemble got another chance when calls for the Snyder Cut eventually led to Zack Snyder's Justice League being completed and released to a largely positive reception. While this may have been the end of a long journey to see Snyder's version of Justice League finally realised, it was also the end of an even longer road for the Justice League as a cinematic property. The fact that the crudely cut together theatrical version came in between simply made seeing the heroes of the League finally united carry even more impact. WB apparently doesn't want Justice League 2. A few days after the Snyder Cut hit streamers worldwide, WB CEO Ann Sarnoff declared the film to be the end of Snyder's arc. Snyder himself has corroborated WB's sentiment, describing the studio as aggressively anti-Snyder. By all outward indications, despite the Snyder Cut's positive reception, WB would like nothing more than to shut the door on any more Zack Snyder-helmed DC movies. Putting aside the studio's current feelings towards the direction Snyder intended to take the Justice League, this is also driving the continued interest in Snyder's arc due to how much it stands at odds with the usual studio approach to franchise building. It's interesting because I'm going to remind you of what Grace Randolph said a while back. She said, and this is interesting because she loves BVS, she's a big supporter of Zack Snyder, she said this: when auteurs make their own movies, it's fine for them to have their creative freedom, but when they're making these kind of franchises, you know, it should be made by a committee. That's interesting for me, because if that's the case, Grace, Batman vs Superman, a film that you love, would never have happened. It would have been a very, very different movie. So I think you're wrong there. I think, listen, there should be some movies made by committee, and that's fine. We've got that central universe in the DCEU. They've got what they wanted, but there's nothing stopping Snyder's stuff being made as well. The contemporary approach to superhero films has moved in the direction of laying an early foundation that can be expanded upon. Warner Brothers themselves were also operating under this very mindset when the original DC slate was announced, and the business case for it is pretty simple. Plan now to at least potentially capitalise on the superhero IP, with its current value being stronger than ever. By saying no to the Justice League sequels so early and even pulling the plug on projects like Ava DuVernay's New Gods, I don't actually agree with Brad's stance on this, right? Because this had to be pulled. She didn't have a clue. She's a New Gods fan, but she's not a very competent movie. You know, she's not a high concept director. It's as simple as that. Warner Brothers went in the complete opposite direction from the modern strategy of superhero filmmaking, making fans want to see the Justice League sequels happen that much more. What's also made that desire even more pronounced is the fact of the specific characters involved. WB's DC movie future fuels Snyderverse hopes. The push for Snyder's 2 sequels is being even further fueled by the simple fact that it's the Justice League, and WB seemingly leaving one of the greatest factions of heroes ever assembled at a one and done. Conversely, Disney and Marvel have produced multiple movies for the Avengers and Guardians of the Galaxy. The X-Men film franchise ran for 2 decades, and even the DCEU's own Suicide Squad received a critically praised sequel in 2021. Given the Justice League's importance in the history of comic books, they're the obvious A-listers of the A-listers in any shared universe of DC characters, and the desire to see them given proper treatment on the big screen is the driving force behind calls for the rest of Snyder's arc to see the light of day. I'm quite sure that Walter Hamada and Ann Sarnoff and co are planning a Justice League film that's nothing to do with Zack's Snyderverse. I'm sure of that. And the day that's announced, I think there's going to be a very poisonous environment and atmosphere around social media, especially YouTube and Twitter. But just because they're doing that, it doesn't mean, again, parallel universe. Just do the Snyderverse, say it's always been a parallel universe. It's simple. WB presently has no known plans for the Justice League to reunite at all after saying no to Snyder's sequels, and that's the key fact that's being missed in the discussion of the current state of affairs with the DCEU. The fact that Snyder's incomplete 5-part arc has also been at least mapped out is only adding to the perception of the Justice League being sidelined in the current DC movie slate. That's not to say that there's not strong anticipation for DC films that are currently on the way, like non-DCEU entry, The Batman and Black Adam. Well, Black Adam is a DC Extended Universe entry, Brad. The Batman is on another Earth. Nevertheless, WB has failed to articulate in details on a plan going forward aside from cutting down rather than building upon their DC slate, with no publicly stated plans for the Justice League at all. Contrasted against the 2 Justice League sequels Snyder has planned, many fans are giving the latter an energetic endorsement, as I am. But Brad, there is a plan. They have got a plan. They've been pretty vocal about their plan. We see what they're doing. They're trying to create another Marvel Cinematic Universe. I don't know if it's going to work. I'm excited for it to see what it is, but it doesn't mean with that going ahead of being successful, it doesn't mean we can't have the Snyderverse as well. That's the thing we have to understand here. It has to be understood that there would still be a waiting period of few years, even if Warner Brothers decided now to move ahead with Snyder's Justice League sequels, as the director's Netflix first look deal is currently keeping him busy with projects like Rebel Moon. Still, the fact that it involves a collection of superheroes as revered in geek culture as the Justice League and their now also shelved arch-enemy Darkseid is and will very likely continue to fuel the push for the foreseeable future. The 2 sequels to Zack Snyder's Justice League are becoming more and more of a nerd legend, and underneath it all, what's quietly keeping that legend alive is Warner Brothers' decision to simply leave a team of superheroes as beloved as the Justice League on the bench. And there's another key thing here, Brad, and everyone else, of course, and I hope you're enjoying the video. There's another key element here, of course, as well, that Zack got Darkseid right. He got his Justice League castings and characters right. He got the film right. He made his own Justice League in his own unique, immersive way. But Darkseid was the key to everything. Darkseid being in that movie really fueled the marketing campaign as well. And we were told from the very beginning by lots of people on the inside that Darkseid wasn't going to get a lot of screen time, but Zack was clever because he gave him just enough screen time. We saw him as Euxis. We saw him speak to Steppenwolf. And we saw him in the end there, when he was talking to his henchmen as well. He had enough screen time. We saw, this is a great adaptation. This may be one of the best comic book character adaptations in CBM history, because he's pretty much very similar to his comic book origins. Zack Snyder understood how huge this character is, and he did him justice, and people want to see more. They want to see how he controls the anti-life equation. What happens to Superman in the nightmare future? You know, Zack has created this final kind of crisis arc in his own image, like he does with everything else. And people are desperate to see this because his immersive vision is great, and more people are coming to the table. And let's talk about the divisive reaction to Batman versus Superman. I mean, people acted like he'd killed their grandmother or something, not made a film in his own image. It was ridiculous, and I understand a lot of you were angry because he deconstructed Superman and Batman. Batman kills. Superman already killed in Man of Steel, which was Goya's decision and not Zack's. But he was going to reconstruct them. He kind of does reconstruct them by the end of BVS. I mean, if you don't like the guy in his movies, that's perfectly acceptable. That's okay. Go about your business. Enjoy what you enjoy and let us enjoy what we enjoy and say what we want as well. I think we're a more unified unit in the Restore the Snyderverse community now. There's a lot less arguments. I'd suggest unblocking people that you've blocked. I may take my own advice as well. We need to stand together here because we're nearly there. It's very interesting. Zack's made it blatantly clear with all these 2 or 3 teases in the past few weeks that he's still very passionately interested in restoring the Snyderverse. So it's great that Kevin Smith had something positive to say, and he added Zack Snyder during this big event we had yesterday. Dear Zack Snyder, please include the line "Aquaman's got mad sharks" in any potential Final Crisis flick. It yearns to be the rallying cry for the Snyderverse. If Darkseid exclaimed it, that would especially rock many. Thanks, sir. So, I don't know if this is from the comic books Final Crisis because I don't know them so well, but he does seem to have a clip of one of his films. Is it Clerks or whatever it is? So it could be from that as well. But it's great for Kevin Smith, someone that's very, very big news in Hollywood, has been for the past 20 or 30 years. You know, bantering Zack, talking to Zack, having a little bit of a giggle about that and asking Zack to put something in the film. Something's brewing here. There's no question about it. People like Kevin Smith now atting Zack Snyder. I think we can officially be excited that we're about to restore the Snyderverse. How long this is going to take, when this will happen, when this will be announced, could be 6 months to a year, who knows? But we are getting there. We mustn't actually forget that there are a slate of films coming for the DCEU next year. 4 movies being released in theatres. At least another 2, and not including Super Pets, by the way, directly, you know, in the DCEU continuity, which is Batgirl and Blue Beetle. So it's a huge year for Ann Sarnoff, Walter Hamada and Jim Lee. Will this work? Well, one actor from one of those movies is very confident. Aquaman 2, Dolph Lundgren says James Wan will blow fans away. Listen. James Wan is one of the best directors we have in the industry. I'm so proud he's involved with the DC Extended Universe. And I think he created a really immersive, beautiful experience in the first Aquaman. According to returning star Dolph Lundgren, next year's Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom has a stronger and more exciting script than the first movie by Rachel Abernathy of Screen Rant. Dolph Lundgren has some high praise for Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, stating he believes director James Wan is going to blow fans away. Set to arrive 4 years after the first movie, Aquaman 2 will see the highly anticipated return of Jason Momoa's Arthur Curry in a brand new adventure. The first Aquaman was a box office smash, grossing over $1.1 billion worldwide. Development on the sequel began soon after, but it took a bit longer than expected to move into production. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom is currently scheduled for release in December 2022. Filming began in London this past summer. In addition to Momoa, Aquaman 2 will star several familiar faces from the first movie. Amber Heard, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II and Patrick Wilson are all set to return, as well as Lundgren, who played King Nereus. Newcomers to the Aquaman family include Pilu Asbæk, India Moore, Vincent Regan and Zhani Zhou. Plot details are still being kept under wraps, they always say that, don't they? Though the title for the movie, as well as the working title, Necrus, hints at a deeper exploration of Aquaman's world, which is good, because I want to spend as much time underwater as possible. James Wan has returned to direct Aquaman 2, and it sounds like he's crafting something truly special. Lundgren recently sat down with THR to talk about his new film, Castle Falls, though he found time at the end of the interview to heap some praise on Wan and the rest of the Aquaman 2 creative team. According to Lundgren, The Lost Kingdom just might be better than the first movie, he said. The whole picture is just a class act. Everybody from James Wan and Jason Momoa to Amber Heard and the producers, I think this one is better. I think the script is stronger and it's more exciting. The technology has moved forward in 4 years, so I was really pleased to be part of it. James Wan is just going to blow everybody away again by this tremendous world that he creates. He's involved in every little detail and every little piece of every weapon, and I think it's going to be great. And that's what you want to hear. You want a director creating an immersive experience to be as someone saying, can you put the broom up my backside as well so I can sweep the floor as well? You want them to be control freaks and want to be controlling the set, controlling the atmosphere and arena around the set and what's going to be in the movie. They're the directors I like. I like them. And I love the directors who actually write and direct. I'm not sure if James co-wrote the first one. He's more of a director. But anyway, I love the first Aquaman. It really works for me. And everyone involved in The Lost Kingdom, Aquaman and The Lost Kingdom, is saying the same thing. That this is going to be so much better, so much stronger than the first movie. I'm interested. Is this the Empire Strikes Back of the Aquaman IP? I certainly hope so. Because this was the big mistake of Wonder Woman 84. We didn't need a hopeful, smiley movie. We needed Wonder Woman to have her Empire Strikes Back moment. Luke Skywalker discovered the villain of the story was his father. We need those type of middle movies. The Dark Knight is great evidence of that. Lundgren's comments match that Abdul Mateen said back in August. He described the Aquaman 2 script as being even better than the first movies. Now that two stars have insisted the sequel is surpassing the first film in terms of quality, fans might have a reason to be extra excited for The Lost Kingdom. The story for this one is already intriguing since Momoa had a hand in developing it. It sounds like that Plus One's impressive direction is coming together to make an excellent movie. Though most specifics about Aquaman 2 are still being kept under wraps, a few things have been revealed. For one thing, Aquaman will have a new stealth suit for the movie, and Momoa is expected to sport a hairstyle that skews closer to the comics. Additionally, recent fan event DC Fandom revealed a special behind-the-scenes trailer for Aquaman 2 that offered peeks at some concept art for the movie. Between the intriguing looks that have been revealed so far and the praise from stars themselves, it really feels like Aquaman 2 is not to be missed. Listen, I'm excited for all the movies, all 6 movies next year. I really am. Or I am absolutely passionate and fighting for Zack's DC Universe as well. But I don't want to knock these down either. But here's the thing in the final part of today's DCEU Daily. Until the Snyderverse is restored, they have a huge problem because the toxicity aimed at the cast of the Justice League reshoots, what happened to Zack, them taking away from us our immersive kind of origin story of the DC Extended Universe is still there in the memory. And this is not like people saying, give us this or else. What we're saying is there's an uncomfortable truth here. And you need to restore the Snyderverse. We saw what happened to the Suicide Squad. You know, I'd hate for those 4 movies next year to be damaged because the Snyderverse hadn't been restored. Because restoring the Snyderverse can have a completed jewel in the crown of, you know, franchises in Hollywood right now. We would have it all then. We would have this central universe that we're seeing 6 movies from next year. Then we can have the Snyderverse in a parallel universe. We can have it all. There's no need to be toxic against the central universe or what they're planning. Everyone can be happy. And that's a world I want to live in. This has been the DCEU Daily. I'm Mick, your host with the most. Just ask your girlfriends and your wives. Like, share, comment, subscribe. Hit the notification bell so you never miss this perfection. And I'll see you again tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. And for crying out loud, restore the Snyderverse.